This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
Welcome to the Elevate Construction Podcast, where we provide real solutions to implementing lean. My name is Jason Schroeder, and today's podcast is titled Buttons of Success. Now, this really deals with how we should manage and handle change orders on the project site, but we have some stories in here that I think you'll absolutely love. So we will proceed forward with this podcast in a manner where I think you'll be excited, it'll be relevant to you, and you'll be able to implement this on your project site. So, would you like to better know how you can prevent your project from getting derailed by change orders? Would you like a method or a philosophy or an approach that will help you to shield yourself, your project, your team, your workers from variation no matter what happens? Would you really like a way to be less victimized by outside circumstances on your project? If that is the case, then you'll love the content that we have today. And so real quick before I begin, please share this podcast or rate it or leave a comment, leave a review for us. This would help us get the message out. So let me start out with a quote. And you've heard this from me before, but this applies today as well. So I want to give it to you again. Continue fighting until negotiations are complete. So that's the quote. We need to make sure that we need to continue fighting against waste and variation and continue fighting for the owner to get their job complete and continue fighting for the trade partners to make sure that they make money and stay in a flow until negotiations for changes, for change orders, or for variation are complete. So let me tell you a quick story, and then I'll get into the principle, and I'll tell you another story. This one's actually really cool. All of them I hope are pretty cool, but this one I think you're really going to like. So my first story is about a project where we had a very steady flow. We were managing the interiors on a Takt plan. Levels 3 and 4 didn't have a lot of owner changes. So since we managed that on a Takt plan with a really vigorous roadblock removal system, we finished on time down to the day. But levels 1 and 2 were riddled with changes, and these were change orders from the owner. Some of them were initiated by the designers, and that was fine. I don't have any issue with that. But at the end, it was putting our project in jeopardy because all of these changes were at the end and we were having a very difficult time managing it. And anybody who's listening to this podcast that is in construction knows, and actually this applies to any industry really, but anybody knows that when you have trade partners that are given a bunch of changes, that they will come in and rightly so say, well, we're distracted here, we're held up here, I can't proceed here, I'm waiting here, I have called off my orders, my materials here, and they'll basically, I don't want to say find an excuse. They have an excuse, a legitimate excuse to stop, but we don't want them stopping because we have to keep them on track. We have to stay on track. So at this project, we decided that all of our original contract work would continue forward. The message for the trade partners was keep going, and I'm moving my arm in the air signaling forward as I'm recording this podcast, but keep moving, keep going, stay with our contract work, maintain the flow, push, let's go ahead and keep our schedule, keep all of our workers focused there. Don't look over here at these change orders to the side. Don't get distracted. Don't get freaked out. Don't let them get freaked out. Keep focused on what we're supposed to be doing. And then all change orders were focused with a different lead person, with different workers, and sometimes with demo and reinstall, and sometimes with a different end date, because we knew that we only had the right capacity to take care of our original contract work. And even though our contracts are sometimes written that says, hey, if you have a change order, you can't add on GCs, you can't tack on additional management, you can't do these things, that doesn't negate the fact that our original capacity, our resources, our manpower, our materials, our information, the throughput, our space, everything had an original capacity to take care of our contract work. And when we do change orders, when we do change work, that requires additional paperwork, additional submittals, additional supervision, additional coordination, additional everything. And so you need to realize that that is an impact on the team. And so we did realize that, and we made sure that our change orders were priority number 2. Our contract work, what we were supposed to be doing on the project, was priority number 1. And we even, like I said, bought it out to where we have different foremen, different people. And sometimes we asked the owner for an extension on the end date, and we didn't distract the main crews with that work. We had other people doing it as priority 2. And we would mark these things on maps. So on the roadblock tracking maps, which complement the Takt plans, we would make a red polygon or a red square or a red rectangle there that said, this is a change order and this is the end date for this specific area. And we would track those separately in our weekly scheduling systems and detach them from the Takt plan. So it really worked out really well. And those red marked areas, we would show the owner every OAC, bring up those roadblock maps and say, hey, everything's on track, on schedule. This red area, this is what's going on here. This is what's going on here. This is what's going on here. And boy, I tell you, if there has ever been a better way to show the owner and the designers how we're being impacted and get them on our side and to see as we see and know as we know, I haven't found it, because it was fantastic for us to look at those visuals and see, okay, there's this massive change in this room, but also we have to access it through the hallway and up to the stairwell, so it's affecting this total space, this total area on the project. And so we saw as a group, we knew as a group, and we acted as a group, and it was fantastic. So that's what we did on that project. And we actually asked the design team to stop sending change orders by a certain date so we could absorb when possible, but also complete according to the extended deadlines, the additional owner changes. And so we managed it very well. We didn't have to bring on additional staff to manage it, but we managed the circumstance. We created the context. We set the bumpers within we were going to, follow within our lane. We guided everybody. We provided clarity, and we communicated that, and we held the line. So the principle is, when we get change orders on our project, it really is the right thing to focus on our current work. There's no reason for us to derail what we're doing, what we've already signed and contracted to, what we've already agreed to, which is our obligation, our legal obligation, our moral obligation, our ethical obligation to go accomplish for an anticipated change order, which is secondary. What we need to do is look at the capacity that we have, understand we've already made a deal, and make new deals with change orders that takes in the entire situation, the entire context, looks at the resources, looks at our staff, looks at the balance and health of the team, our capacity, and really analyzes our capacity to sustain impacts. In fact, one day I'll do a podcast called The Capacity to Sustain. Everything that we do with our teams, with our crews, with our foremen, with our workers, with our job site, with our logistics staff, with our on-site project management team, with our companies, everything, there is a capacity that we have to sustain variation, changes in direction, and we have to make sure that we analyze that. So when we write and accept and agree to deals with change orders, we need to make sure we take in the whole situation and that we keep the ship in orbit. Let me tell you a little story, and I've told you this before, but it's so good I'm going to tell you again. You've heard me say that a couple of times, but in the movie Star Wars, and I think it's movie 2, and I love those movies, General Grievous had captured Chancellor Palpatine and had him on his ship, and eventually the Jedi go and rescue him, and then I think it's shield rays capture them in a hallway, the Jedi, and they're brought to the bridge to meet with General Grievous. And so they're having their banter back and forth and their evil person monologue, and the Jedi escape, basically. And General Grievous is wanting to keep this command ship in orbit so that he can escape, but the Jedi are attacking all of the drones around him. And what he keeps saying is, keep the ship in orbit, stay at your stations. And he's talking to the droids on the command ship because they were wanting to run away. But really, look at the situation. If the Jedi win, then that was inevitable, right? But if they don't, you have to still keep the ship in orbit. So if those droids hadn't stayed at their stations and kept the ship in orbit during this little scuffle between General Grievous and the Jedi, then they would have lost either way. So his message was, keep the ship in orbit, stay at your stations, and get it done. He kept repeating that over and over. And so he's engaging with the Jedi at one time, and then he sicks another droid on him. Comes around, tells him again, stay at your stations, keep the ship in orbit. And then by the time the Jedi finally catch up to him, he throws a spear through the window and then shoots out into space and then harpoons himself back on and then escapes through one of the escape pods and then puts the Jedi in this ship finally and then crashes the ship because he jettisons all of the other escape pods and basically the ship's going down. And so General Grievous won that battle. Even if you're Jedi and Star Wars fans, General Grievous won that one because by keeping the ship in orbit, he was at least able to win the one battle, even though he would have to fight future battles. And that's the case with change orders. We have to at least win our first battle, which is with our contract work, even if we have to fight future battles with change orders. So let me tell you another story, and I received this from a superintendent many years ago. I won't mention any names because I don't know if any of this, the actual names are confidential, but I know the stories and the ideas are pretty neat, and it's not confidential, and I'll share it with you here. And so the name of this story is called Buttons of Success. So this story, in my mind, when we talk about reducing waste and variation, really combats the idea of, oh, that's too good to be true. You can't minimize waste and variation. You can't overcome these things. Well, if it's too good to be true, then listen to this story. So this was told to me again by a superintendent that I worked with a while ago, and here it is. A long time ago, a general contractor landed a job for the Bureau of Printing and Engraving. It was managed by the Corps of Engineers. By that time, that company had worked with the Corps of Engineers many times and had a really good working relationship, but they had never done anything for the Bureau of Printing and Engraving before, so they really didn't know what to expect. And this job was going to be a state-of-the-art printing and engraving plant that printed $1 bills. So let me go into the perspective of the person writing the story. It was interesting how the project got started because there was some politics involved. This project was awarded to Fort Worth because the Speaker of the House at the time was a certain person that had influence, and you know how politics go, he got his way. So to make a long story short, the city of Fort Worth prepared for this award by building a large tilt-up building in the city of Bluemont north of Fort Worth proper. It was a large concrete box, you know, the type with tilt-up walls. It had no floor, only a roof, and it was going to function as the shell of the new currency project. All this seemed fine, and during the pre-bid walk, everything seemed fine too. We walked along the dirt floor talking about where things would be built, and it all seemed to come together. But sometime between our pre-bid walk and being awarded the contract, the consulting engineers decided it would be a good thing to inject the soil with water. They did this to expand the soil because that part of the country has this highly expansive clay, and they didn't want to deal with expansion again on the project, so they water injected the soil. That turned it into a muddy quagmire, and the unintended consequence of it was its ability to dry it out. It was inside a closed box with no sun, no wind, and no way to dry out. This ended up being the first CE, and from that point on, the changes just began rolling in. At the height of the project, they averaged 7 changes a day. As a consequence to this, the subcontractors mobilized 7 change consultants on the job trying to defend their companies. No contracts could be finalized because the scope kept changing and everything was in flux. Nothing was happening. By the time I arrived there, the superintendent said, we had 360 CEs that had not been addressed. We were that far behind. To help fix this, the powers that be brought me in along with a new general superintendent. We put together a plan that included letting the fieldwork proceed per plan. We decided not to talk about changes anymore, and we assigned one person to all changes. When we bid changes for the project, we bid it to include the demolition. For instance, if the change was a pipe in the floor, a triple wall pipe instead of a double wall pipe, we priced to do the demo for the first pipe and install the new one. We didn't just try to fit it in the sequence of the work and cause confusion. We went to the Corps with this plan and they bought off on it and committed extra staff members on their end to support it and make it work. All other claims consultants went home, and the small team made between the auditors, the general contractor, and the Corps worked this plan all the way through. The interesting part of this story is how quickly attitudes changed once we had a plan to figure this thing out. I remember talking with a certain person, a claims consultant, who worked for a law firm in Atlanta. He was kind of the ringleader of the bunch, and I'll never forget what he said to me. When I first presented my plan to him, he said, Has anyone ever told you you are optimistic beyond reason? I said no, but I like that and I'll use it in the future. So why did he say this? Was this plan too optimistic? Were their heads in the clouds? Well, let's find out. The story ends like this. We implemented this plan, and in addition to everything else the entire team was doing, the general superintendent went out and bought buttons that said, "We can do it," and gave one to everyone. Every single person on the job had one of these "We can do it" buttons. Everyone seemed to get on board with this, and the feel of the job switched overnight from a defeated gloom to an attitude of hope and progress. Once momentum picked up, the GS went out and bought buttons that said, "We will do it." Some kept both of those buttons. Some took the old one off and put on the new one, but everyone had a button that said, "We will do it." And their attitudes adjusted to that idea as well. And as you may have guessed, once the job finished, he went out and bought "We Did It" buttons, and everyone then had a "We Did It" button. Those buttons had a surprising impact on the success of the job, the attitude of the people, and the change towards progress. Those buttons are only an inch in diameter, but they communicated the small and simple things it takes to be great, the attitude it takes to figure it out, get it done, and finish. And the reason I really like this story is because you notice that they focused on winning. They focused on what they could do. They focused on their first battle. They focused on what they were already contracted to do. They formed a plan. They held the line. They got the owner's buy-off, and they managed the chaos, which is, I do want to repeat, the job of the general contractor to shield trade partners and workers from that chaos. So I love that story. Here's the current situation. People get distracted. They get distracted by changes. They get distracted by change orders. They get distracted by owners. They get distracted by designers. And I do want to say, if we want to love owners and designers more than we currently do, or as much as they deserve, then we will know that they don't want us to get distracted. They want us to find an appropriate, level-headed, and leader-like way to absorb these impacts, or to control or manage these impacts, or to tell them the truth about these impacts, so that it just doesn't happen by happenstance or some hidden emergency come to pass at the end of the project, which surprises everybody. And when people do that, when they don't respect owners and designers enough to manage the process, then teams get overburdened, they're over capacity, quality, safety goes out the door, schedule goes out the door, costs increase, manpower increases, the entire project descends into chaos, and everyone, while they're trying to fit it all in and win both battles, they lose both battles instead of at least winning the one. And like I said, it just descends into chaos. So here's the solution, and I'll give it to you in 8 bullet points. Keep the main workforce moving with the contract work according to your Takt plan or your master schedule. When people mention changes, redirect them to keep the workforce moving forward. Number 2, make sure that your weekly work plans align with the Takt plan and the master schedule in your weekly meetings and in all of your communications to trade partners, and keep them focused on that system. Number 3, track changes separately with separate lead persons and separate workers, and mark those areas on a visual map. Number 4, submit change orders with a cost and a time impact analysis. If the change order needs to have overtime, if it's allowed obviously, extra workers, weekend work, or an extension, submit it that way. If demo and reinstall is needed in the most extreme circumstances, then do that as well. Number 5, in trade partner and foreman meetings, focus on the contract work first, then talk about change orders if you want, but make it clear that it is a separate crew with separate time, and we need to stay focused on the base contract work. Number 6, track all change orders on your roadblock maps to differentiate that from the base contract work. Show this map in the trade partner meetings and to the owner in the OAC meetings weekly. Make sure it is not tied to substantial completion, meaning those change areas, unless the change order time impact analysis says it can without creating variation to the overall project schedule. Number 7, in your personal schedules, handle roadblocks, meaning the personal schedules of the PM, the PE, the super, any of the leaders on site. Handle roadblocks, manpower, equipment, and information issues first for base contract work. Then, in the standard work of the day, do the change orders. If these people, or if you do not have enough time, then let the change orders slip or get more help. Number 8, what I'm proposing is a complete mind shift to doing what we are paid to do first, and then handling changes secondly. Either way, we want to fit them in, But if we try to fit in change orders first, we won't get those or the base contract work complete. So the challenge for you is to really absorb this story. I hope you've enjoyed it. Actually, these multiple stories and this concept, because it's been super impactful to me. Think about how you can change or alter your leadership to accommodate this and to really drive remarkable results on site. How can you differentiate and manage the chaos? And can you personally relate to some of these stories? And are you currently in that situation? And think about this. What will you do as the leader to make sure that you don't get distracted by that waste and variation? I hope this helps, because at the end of the day, we're trying to protect workers, to instill respect for workers, to train leaders at all levels, and to preserve families. And if we do this, if we control this chaos, if we have a good project, we have a good flow, and people know that they can come to the project and win, then we are accomplishing our mission to change this industry for the better and implement amazing, operationally excellent tactics and strategies. So I hope this helps. If you have any questions, if you want further clarification, or if you want to do a podcast interview, please reach out to me at jason@elevateconstructionist.com, or check us out on our website at elevateconstructionist.com, and I will respond to you. We'll get it done. We absolutely love feedback. We've been getting a lot of it lately, and it's really fantastic. So also you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, or the company LinkedIn page for Elevate Construction, or the company Facebook page. But we really like to hear from you. Please rate and review the podcast if you have an opportunity, and share it with people that need to know this. I'm sure there's someone on one of your projects where you can communicate and scale this clarity simply by just sending the podcast. That's what I hope they're useful for in your daily role. So until we meet again, please go think about these things. Please think about how this can elevate your game, and on we go.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues and help us spread the word by rating, subscribing, and leaving a review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on the Elevate Construction Podcast.